This episode of Zone of Tech is brought to you by BoostMobile.com. Want to save some cash on your phone bill and also get $50 off on your phone? Then be sure to head over to BoostMobile.com. Boost Mobile offers you unlimited talk, text, and data, and you don't even need to sign a contract. So hurry up and click the link in the description to get $50 off when you get a new phone by March the 31st. Or simply click here for more great Boost Mobile deals. Hey everyone, and welcome to the Zone of Tech. I'm Daniel, and you know the iPhone 6, right? The upcoming iPhone from Apple. Now I actually did a video on the iPhone 6 just a few days ago, actually 2 weeks ago basically, the iPhone 6 leak design. Now in that video I showed you some leaks and some rumors regarding the iPhone 6. Now unfortunately those leaks turned out to be fake, and I actually mentioned that in my video. Now we also got over 300,000 views on that video, which is simply amazing. So thank you all for that, and most of you suggested me to do another video on the iPhone 6 showing you the latest leaks and rumors of the iPhone 6. So there you go, this is basically all the leaks and rumors of the iPhone 6, all the leaks, all the rumors, everything we have so far regarding the iPhone 6 put together in a video. So there you go, this is my full iPhone 6 leaks and rumors video. So enjoy the video. Okay, so to make it easier for you, I've decided to split this video into 5 different sections. So design, specs, camera, features, and release date and price. So starting off with the design of the iPhone 6. Now as you probably know, the iPhone 6 is going to be a new number. It's a 6, not a 5S, not a 5TBC or anything like that. So yes, the iPhone 6 is going to feature a new design because this is basically what Apple does with their iPhones. This is called the tick-tock mechanism. This is basically what Intel does with their CPU. So basically they release, both Intel and Apple, they release a product, and then the next year they update that product instead of releasing a brand new redesigned product. So we had the iPhone 3G, 3GS, the iPhone 4, the iPhone 4S, the iPhone 5, the iPhone 5S, and the iPhone 5C, although that's basically something else. And now we are going to see the iPhone 6. Now speaking of the design, we expect to see something like the iPod Touch 5th generation. Yes, we expect to see a full aluminium design. So we expect the iPhone 6 to be made entirely out of aluminium instead of just a aluminium band like the iPhone 5S, because as you probably know, the iPhone 5 and the iPhone 5S, they did have an aluminium back, but it also had 2 glass panes on the top and on the bottom of the back. So yeah, it's brand new, designed thinner and lighter than the current generation iPhone 5S. And we are also expecting to see edge-to-edge glass on the iPhone 6, as well as a larger display. Now we are not entirely sure about the display size yet, but in my opinion it's going to be something around 4.7 inches. I believe that's a perfect size. It's not too big or not too small. Wait. Are we still talking about smartphones? Now, there have been reports that Apple is also working on releasing a larger iPhone 6, so not just a 4.7-inch model, but also a 5.2 or 5.5-inch model, something to compete with Samsung's Galaxy Note line. And apparently they're not going to call it an iPhone, they're going to call it something else. Now, once again, this is not confirmed, and I don't actually believe in Apple releasing anything like that, an iPad mini, or an iPhone X, or anything like that. But still, it's a rumor, and it was worth mentioning. So we've talked about the display size. Now, what about the display technology? Because as you probably know, in the iPhone 5 and the iPhone 5S, basically in all iPhone models, Apple uses IPS LED backlit LCD. So they're not LED displays, they're nothing like that. Actually, LED displays don't even exist, but I will talk about that probably in a future video. So yes, Apple uses LED backlit IPS LCDs for all of their iPhone models. And as you probably know, Samsung or other manufacturers use something else, something like AMOLED, which is an OLED technology. Now, LCD and OLED are very different technologies. I will probably talk about this in a future video. For the iPhone 6, I don't actually expect Apple switching to OLED, just because IPS LCDs provide basically the best color accuracy on the market, whereas on the other hand, OLED displays provide better power management and more vibrant colors. So once again, I don't see Apple switching from IPS LCD to OLED. So we're probably going to see, again, an IPS LED backlit LCD. So what about the resolution of the iPhone 6? So as you probably know, all the iPhone models from the iPhone 4, which was released back in 2010, up until the iPhone 5S, and all of their iPod Touch models from the iPod Touch 4th generation, all of them have the exact same PPI or pixel density of 326. So although with the iPhone 5 they've increased both the display size and resolution, the PPI or the concentration of the pixels remain the same. So 326 PPI. So we have three possibilities for the resolution of the iPhone 6. Now the first one is a 720p display. That's 1280 by 720, which will give the iPhone 6 a PPI of 312. But honestly, I don't see Apple going back or reducing the PPI of their iPhone, so I don't see this, this possibility that likely. Now the second option would be a 1080p display, finally, because as you probably know, on the iPhone 5 or 5S the display isn't even HD, although the PPI is quite high, so we don't actually notice that. So a 1080p 4.7-inch display will translate to 469 PPI, which is basically the same as the HTC One, because the HTC One currently has the highest PPI of any phone on the market. Now, although this is more plausible than the first option, Apple basically said that everything above the 300 PPI threshold is basically invisible to the naked eye. So I don't actually see Apple bumping the PPI that high, honestly. But what I do see is a strange, unique resolution like Apple has on all of their phones and tablets. So expect something like 1600 by 900, that's my guess, which will translate to PPI of 386. So yes, if I were to put my money on a PPI, I would put it on 386. So once again, 1600 by 900 resolution, which is still a good increase from the 326 that the iPhone 5S uses. Okay, so far we have the display size, the technology, which again is LED backlit LCD, IPS LCD. We have the resolution, but what about the glass pane? Well, the glass pane is apparently going to be made out of sapphire crystal glass. There you go. So what exactly is sapphire crystal glass? Well, sapphire is basically one of the most durable materials on Earth. Now, the most durable material is diamond, and the diamond basically has a 10 rating on durability scale, so that's basically the highest rating on any material. And number 9 is sapphire. There you go. Now, Apple has actually started producing such displays, actually 5-inch sapphire crystal glass displays, and they actually have several crystal glass display factories for this. And also, in case you don't know, Apple already uses sapphire crystal in some of their products. So the iPhone 5 and the iPhone 5S do have a sapphire crystal glass display on the camera lens. Yes, the camera lens is made out of sapphire crystal, as well as the Touch ID sensor or the Touch ID home button on the iPhone 5S. So there you go. They already use sapphire crystal in their devices. So what does this mean for the iPhone 6? Well, it means that the display will be virtually unscratchable, unless you have a sharp diamond or sapphire and you intentionally scratch the screen. So unless you do that, the screen is virtually unscratchable. Now, sapphire is also used in high-end watches for durability. Now, unfortunately, it also has some disadvantages. Now, first off, the display is actually going to be thicker than on the iPhone 5S if they are going to use sapphire instead of glass. Now, a second disadvantage is that sapphire is a bit dimmer than glass, which means that the iPhone 6 will either have a dimmer display than the iPhone 5 and 5S, although I don't actually believe this, or Apple will simply bump the brightness, which will result in decreasing the battery life. But again, if the battery is going to be larger, then we expect to see no changes, no differences at all. Just a quick note, if the iPhone 6 is going to have sapphire crystal glass, it doesn't mean that it is going to be unbreakable. It is just going to be unscratchable. If you drop it, it is still going to crack. Whereas something like Corning's Willow Glass, which was introduced at CES 2014, that's basically one of the toughest glass panes on the market. That's also flexible. But the chance of Apple introducing sapphire crystal glass on their next generation iPhones is about 80% legit. So yes, this was the design of the iPhone 6. So unfortunately, we don't have any leaks, any legit leaks and back casings, anything for the iPhone 6 yet. But what we do have is a lot of concepts and renderings from some really talented people. And guess what? I even made a video showing you the top 5 iPhone 6 concepts. So in case you want to see those concepts, top 5 iPhone 6 concepts, be sure to click on this video or the link in the description for those of you who are on mobile, and you will be taken to that video. Okay, so moving on to section number 2, the specs of the iPhone 6. So in terms of the CPU, expect Apple to release the A8 or the Apple 8 CPU, because as you probably know, the iPhone 5S uses the Apple A7 CPU, and trust me, A7 versus the Samsung A7 is something totally different. Samsung released the A7 CPU back in 2011, I believe, or something, whereas the Apple A7 is totally different than the Samsung A7, so don't mix those. So the Apple A7 CPU was the world's first 64-bit mobile CPU. So expect the Apple A8 to be 64 bits as well, and who knows, maybe even a quad-core CPU, because Apple hasn't made any quad-core CPUs yet. All of their CPU models have been dual-core so far. So yes, who knows, quad-core maybe, clocked at, 1.5 GHz, expect something like that, or a dual-core clocked at 1.8. Again, 64-bit. Also expect a better integration with the Apple M8 coprocessor, because as you probably know, the M7 coprocessor is included in the Apple A7, and the coprocessor is basically a small low-power CPU which detects and analyzes the movement of your iPhone. So the Apple M7 can actually tell when you're sleeping, when you're walking, when you're cycling, or when you're driving. So expect the M8 to be a bit more advanced than that and a lot more efficient. Now, in terms of the RAM or the random access memory, it could be 2 GB, but I'm not sure about this, because all of Apple's phones and tablets, everything that Apple has at the moment, starting from the iPhone 5 upwards, all of their products only have 1 GB of RAM, and trust me, they're really fast. 64-bit CPU plus 1 GB of RAM plus iOS 7 equals blazing fast performance. We also expect to see the same capacities of 16, 32 GB, 64 and 128 GB option, probably not, but who knows, maybe, just maybe. Although I'm not exactly sure about that. Again, non-expandable storage, exactly like on all iPhone models. Now, in terms of the battery, since Apple is going to increase the display size and also the entire size of their phone, they will also have room for a larger battery, because as you probably know, at the moment, the iPhone 5S only has a battery of 1,560 milliamps, which is actually one of the smallest, the smallest battery for any smartphone flagship out there. So expect at least a 2,000 milliamp battery for the iPhone 6, as well as some pretty neat ways of charging that. So hopefully we'll see something like wireless charging on the iPhone 6. That might be something similar to what we have on the Nexus devices or Samsung devices, or it might even be true wireless charging. Now, what exactly do I mean by true wireless charging? Well, true wireless charging means charging your device via Wi-Fi and Bluetooth without even, placing the phone on anything. Basically just, having your phone in a pocket and then charging that device through the Wi-Fi networks. And this is possible. This has actually been demonstrated. This is actually being developed by a Japanese company as we speak. But unfortunately, the most they could get from this technology a few months ago was basically charge the device from 0 to about 20-30%, which is okay, but honestly not enough. It's not 100% or 80% or 90%. Now, although Apple might include this in the iPhone 6, I don't actually see Apple making this the primary or the main method of charging the device. Now, a second way of charging the iPhone 6 might be via the gyroscope, because as you probably know, those old watches, not actually old watches, but those really high-end watches, they basically charge as you move, and the way they do that is via the gyroscope. And as you know, the iPhone 6, iPhone 5, all of the iPhones starting from the iPhone 4, all of them have a gyroscope. So Apple might take use of that and get a bit of juice in the iPhone from that as well, but it's not going to be, a large amount. So expect something like 5 to 8% of battery life from the gyroscope, if Apple is going to include this. Now, Apple is also working on a technology that allows them to place solar cells in the display, which basically means charging your phone through the display, not only through natural but also through artificial light. But honestly, don't expect to see this in the iPhone 6, probably in the iPhone 8 or 9 or something like that. Okay, finally moving on to something else, which is the camera. So in terms of the sensor, we have two options. Now, the first option is for Apple to keep the exact same 8 megapixel sensor and simply upgrade the aperture from f2.2 to f1.8, which will translate to better low light performance. Now, a second option would be to upgrade the CMOS sensor completely, so basically increasing it from 8 megapixels to something like 12 or 10 megapixels. And if this is the case, we expect the sensor to be developed by Sony, because as you probably know, Sony makes one of the best, if not actually the best sensors on the planet, mobile sensors at least. Same 1.8 aperture, same dual flash technology or true tone flash like on the iPhone 5S. Hopefully we will even see optical stabilization finally, because the iPhone 5S did have optical stabilization, but actually it wasn't optical, sorry, it was digital stabilization. The iPhone 5S, basically whenever you pressed the photo button, the camera button, the iPhone 5S took 4 images and then combined them and basically removed the motion blur from those. So expect something like a true optical stabilization sensor on the iPhone 6, something like on the LG G2. Now, in terms of video recording, Apple might actually introduce 4K video recording to the iPhone 6, something like we have on the Galaxy Note 3 or the Sony Xperia Z2. So hopefully we will see something like that. Once again, it's not confirmed, and I believe this to be about 60% legit. Now, what I do believe is 100% legit is Apple increasing the slow motion or the 128 frames per second video capabilities from 720p to 1080p resolution, because as you probably know, the iPhone 5s can record in slow motion 120 frames per second, but you can only do that in 720p and not full 1080p HD. So expect Apple to increase that from 720p to full HD slow-mo recording on the iPhone 6. And also expect to see an upgraded front-facing camera, finally, because on the iPhone 5 and 5s and 5th generation iPod Touch, basically on all Apple devices, mobile devices and tablets, we have a 1.2 front-facing megapixel camera which records in 720p HD. So expect that to be bumped up to 2 megapixels and full HD 1080p recording. Okay, so moving on to section number 3 of the video, which are the features of the iPhone 6. So the iPhone 6 is going to come pre-installed with Apple's new operating system, iOS operating system, which is going to be iOS 8. Now, iOS 8 is going to be introduced in June at the Worldwide Developers Conference, or WWDC. Now, as you probably know, iOS 7 was the biggest redesign of iOS since ever, and iOS 8 is going to focus mainly on health and fitness. And it is also going to feature Apple's new health and fitness app, which is going to be called HealthBook. So once again, in terms of the features, expect Apple to fully integrate the iPhone 6 with the iWatch through the new HealthBook app. Now, Apple is going to release the iWatch pretty soon, so expect the iWatch to be released either in June or September. And speaking of the iWatch, I have 2 videos of the iWatch. Now, one of them is the iWatch Final Leaks and Rumors, which is this one, and the other one is the top 5 iWatch concepts. So simply click on any of those annotations and you will be taken to those videos, or the links in the description if you are on mobile. So once again, iOS 8 is going to focus on health and fitness. Other than that, we don't expect any new features on the iPhone 6. Some of the reports have actually mentioned Apple removing the home button, but I don't actually see Apple doing that. Besides, Apple just introduced the fingerprint or the Touch ID sensor with the iPhone 5s, so I don't actually see Apple removing that. I have no reason to think that. So expect the Touch ID to make a reappearance on the iPhone 6. Also because at the moment it is the best Touch ID or fingerprint reader on any smartphone out there, including the Galaxy S5. Other features, well, waterproof, nah. I don't actually see Apple making the iPhone 6 waterproof. And finally, moving on to the final section of the video, section number 5, which is release date and price. Now, the release date is going to be either June or September, because as you probably know, all the iPhone models up until the iPhone 4S were released in June, and the iPhone 4S was the first iPhone to be released in October. And then basically all the iPhone models were released either in September or October. So Apple might go back to releasing the iPhone in June, although this is not that likely because there haven't been any official leaks yet. And if the release date is June, we should have seen at least, some legit back casings or something. And since we haven't seen any of those, I expect the iPhone 6 to be released somewhere in September or October. And in terms of the pricing, expect the exact same price as with the iPhone 5s. So $649 for the 16GB model, $749 for the 32GB model, and $849 for the 64GB model, and about $949 if they're going to release any 128GB model, although I honestly believe that to be highly unlikely, but we'll see. What about the iPhone 5C? Now, Apple might introduce an iPhone 6C, but as you probably know, the iPhone 5C wasn't actually Apple's biggest hit. Now, apparently Apple has over 3 million unsold iPhone 5Cs, which is really disappointing. So my guess is that Apple will keep the iPhone 5S alongside the iPhone 6 and sell the iPhone 5S $100 or something cheaper, although I'm not exactly sure about the iPhone 5C. Now let me know in the comment section down below, and also like this video if you want me to do an iPhone 5C leaks and rumors video. But yes, these were all the leaks and rumors I had for you for the iPhone 6. But what do you think? Let me know in the comment section down below. What do you think about the iPhone 6? What do you think the iPhone 6 is going to be like? Let me know in the comment section down below. Also, if you have enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button down there. Helps me out a lot because I spent a lot of time working on this video, so yeah, it does help me out a lot. Also, if you want to see more iPhone 6, iWatch, Samsung Galaxy S5, basically all the tech videos you want to see, simply subscribe to my channel, Zone of Tech. It is free, you don't have to pay for anything, and you'll get to see my latest and greatest videos on the world of tech. Also, don't forget to check me out on Facebook, Twitter, and Google+, because I constantly post tech updates on those social networks. So, thank you all for watching this video. This was it. I'm Daniel from Zone of Tech, and I'll see you in the next video. And until then, like as always, Zone of Tech signing out. Cheers.